yo, man, what the fuck?
You are now about to witness the Munt experience.
Everybody asked me the question. They wanted to know what kind. I know he's gonna growl out. I know he's gonna do something crazy. Everybody wanted to know what I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
Late Registration, Kanye's sophomore album. Coming off of his critically acclaimed and hugely successful project, The College Dropout, Kanye seemingly didn't slow down the creative journey that he was on, going right back into the studio with his aim to work on a new album as soon as possible.
Once a classic, this is what a sample is worth. The original song and a classic, a true classic being made out of it. After grab some more in. And then, like, when I turn around and make the beat, I'll make the beat like in 15 minutes or something. Like, I just chop it all up. Like, I'm ill with the chops.
Taking what he learned from the creation of his previous album, Kanye decided to collaborate with composer Jon Brion, most known for his film scores in movies such as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Brion would serve as a co-producer for several tracks on the album, bringing a heavier emphasis on orchestration to Kanye's established sound.
Good. There's something really delightful about seeing a piece of written music that says crack music on it.
Yeah, it's as good as it gets.
Where's your Beethoven now?
Music, we got a lot of variations on the basic thing. The guys doubled on flugelhorn, the thing, but once again, that was...
Oh, they doubled the flugel?
Yeah, it's awesome. And then there's one section with it in harmony, simple two-part harmony, and then there's one section...
I remember I had doubled the flugel back in high school.
To say it simply, he wants you to feel the music. And that's like me. I want you to feel the music.
Don't be afraid to scratch out any line that doesn't illuminate your subject. I just love that. It's like, man, just look at it. Be hard on yourself and go, does this tell people more about what I want them to know?
The idea to work with a film composer, and Brion specifically, did in fact come from a viewing of Eternal Sunshine, with Kanye being astounded at some of the music that was included within it. Kanye's influences also stemmed heavily from other artists which he favoured within the music industry at the time, with him claiming that the direction he was taking on the album was, quote, that Coldplay, Portishead, Fiona Apple style. Bringing Jon Brion into the process of making the album once again showed off Kanye's ambition and originality towards music creation, pushing boundaries that may have been seen as uncrossable within the hip-hop genre at the time.
Whether you in class or the school of hard knocks. What about that? Whether you in class or the school of hard knocks.
We can probably think of someone creative right there.
It's it.
Because you know I'll be trying to bring in the thread of the album.
Oh yeah, late registration.
Because of this, people wondered if the album was going to stray away from hip-hop, with Brion commenting on this at the time, saying, there are colours and ideas that make the album different from average hip-hop, but Kanye is already different from the average hip-hop guy. He's got this sense of pop record making which is really solid, and he likes tracks with a lot of things going on in them, which is not necessarily common for hip-hop. This is definitely not just a hip-hop album, but it is also by no means overtly arty or non-hip-hop. The scope of production this time round was much larger and more ambitious, with Kanye working even more intensely on every aspect of production, as well as throwing more money at it, with an estimated $2 million investment towards the creation of the album. As opposed to The College Dropout, which was birthed out of years of producing beats and trying to get his voice heard, I see Late Registration almost as the culmination of all of Kanye's hard work. Being able to create whatever he wants right from the get-go, not having to be weighed down by any of the constraints or problems that cropped up in the production of The College Dropout.
This is the type of music that I want to make.
What made Hard Knock Life so big? It's the same thing. The sample speaks to people in a different kind of way that rap can't even reach. That sample is so much bigger than me.
This didn't mean the album's production was perfect though. With the bulk of recording taking place at Sony Music Studios in New York City and the record plant in Hollywood, it's claimed that by November in 2004, the album was around 75% complete. Kanye, however, was not satisfied with what he had produced up to that point, which was the moment where he decided to bring in Jon Brion, which in turn drastically enhanced and changed the overall direction of the album. With Brion being brought in, recording sessions became much more experimental, exploring a large variety of sounds and genres. Kanye visualized the album more as a score for a film, looking at songs as scenes and staying close and consistent to a particular concept. The concept in question linking with his previous album, with Kanye saying that his aim was to touch on topics that people from all walks of life could find relatable, while also remaining true to himself.
I almost died. I'm not scared of death, but I will be remembered, and what I say while I'm here will help people forever.
Staying in line with his broader exploration of sounds, certain guest features on the album also strayed further away from solely hip-hop. This includes artists like Brandy Norwood on the song Bring Me Down and Adam Levine on Heard 'Em Say. He also included actor Jamie Foxx on the track Gold Digger, as around the same time he appeared in a biopic for Ray Charles, with the song sampling one of his songs, I Got a Woman.
Yo, you gotta put Jamie on this joint, the Ray joint.
Yeah, she's a guy. Damn, right. That's what I just want you to do, like, basically a double. Yeah.
On the song We Major, Kanye also ticked off working with another one of his musical inspirations, featuring rapper Nas on the track. Interestingly, around this time, both Nas and Jay-Z had beef with each other, which spawned after years of subtly dissing each other in their lyrics. Jay-Z did not know that Nas was going to feature on the album, with Kanye keeping his appearance quiet in case anything was stirred up between both rappers in the recording process. Kanye revealed later that one of the key factors that went into getting Nas on the album was to in fact dismantle the beef between him and Jay-Z, which may have actually been effective, with both rappers settling their differences later that year.
Yeah. The way he is just still connected to the streets and the struggle and having to like pay his rent.
Turn something to nothing, that pippin', that's a savior. Best things are green, that pippin', get your paper high off the ground instead of skyscraper. Cool out, thinking we local, come on homie, we major.
I can't sign every talented person in the world, and every talented person in the world is not going to get their shot. But the ones I do run into, I just provide them the opportunity.
Despite the heavier emphasis on experimentation, it's clear that much like The College Dropout, Kanye's soulful hip-hop production was still the primary sound within the album. As mentioned previously though, because of Jon Brion's involvement, this album also took a much heavier emphasis on orchestration, with brass and string sections cropping up all over the album. One of the standout moments on the album which shows this off is the song Gone, a track littered with incredibly impactful string sections, lifting the production to levels that weren't possible before. The unconventional nature of the album was noted frequently by listeners and critics, with some people, such as Serena Kim of Vibe magazine, comparing Kanye's approach to how the Beatles produced their music during their experimental era. As I said at the start, however, I look at Late Registration almost as the culmination of all of Kanye's creative ideas, this time round not being held back by anything or anyone.
I had a couple lines, I just went into the studio.
I don't agree up, I don't agree up, I re-up, we up.
I feel like when you go in and you make your raps up without writing them down, you can connect with the beat more.
I get 9, I know, another time I'm coming coming over. Cause a lie.
The thing is, the words literally don't make sense, but the feeling makes all the sense in the world. Common is, you know, such a humble dude that he didn't even tell people that he doesn't write his rhymes down. He doesn't even use it to stunt. Like any and everything that I do good, I was stunting with. For me, when I start working on a beat and sampling everything, sometimes I just take a couple of days and just listen to samples.
Some of the biggest hits from the album sum up quite well the themes and direction that Kanye takes, with his lyrics and overall message this time round being even more uncompromising than ever before. There's tracks like Touch the Sky, which show Kanye looking back on his achievements whilst also stating that there's still so much room for him to grow as an artist. You have Hey Mama, an extremely heartfelt song centered around the close bond that Kanye and his mother shared. Yet another example of something that would typically be considered uncool to talk about in a rap song, with Kanye not caring and not caving to any norms within the hip-hop scene. You also have the huge hit single Gold Digger, touching on Kanye's relationships after he's gained notoriety and lots of money, looking at the superficiality of certain women he's been involved with. We also see the return of the skits from The College Dropout, this time revolving around a much more concise and specific theme that stays consistent throughout the entire album. Within these skits, it really puts us back into the college atmosphere, with the story following a fraternity calling themselves Broke Phi Broke. They chant this name throughout the album, making a contrast between them and other fraternities, by claiming how they have literally no money and can't afford anything from cars to clothes. When looking at the album's cover art, we can see the return of the Dropout Bear mascot, staying consistent with what would soon become a trilogy of albums featuring the character. Reflecting the album's title, we can see the Dropout Bear at the entrance of what we can assume to be his college, surrounded by darkness and being gloomily lit from behind. The photo was in fact taken at Princeton University, with other images also being contained, showing his journey throughout the college, making his way through empty lecture halls, sitting down and reading piles of books, before eventually leaving the same way he came in on the back cover. Just like the album's content, Kanye's storytelling ability, both verbal and non-verbal, is as on point as ever in relation to every aspect of this album, with the concept and atmosphere being even more intensely embraced and enhanced. Late Registration was released on August 30th, 2005, and was arguably the most anticipated release from any artist that year. Upon its release, it immediately became #1 on the US Billboard 200, selling around 860,000 copies in its first week alone. This not only made the album Kanye's first #1 record, but also doubled the amount of copies sold compared to The College Dropout. Fast forward to 2020, and Late Registration still represents one of the biggest projects to ever come out of hip-hop, with over 4 million copies being sold in the US alone, whilst also becoming the 12th highest selling rap album in the UK within the 21st century. On top of this huge amount of success, the album was also met with huge amounts of praise by both fans and critics, with publications like Rolling Stone praising the album for its expansive and broad range of sounds. Late Registration was also lauded for its ideas, concepts, lyrics, hooks, and overall depth, especially when being compared to what others were doing within the hip-hop scene at the time. And that's Late Registration, an album that seemingly cemented Kanye's place as a legend within the rap industry, becoming increasingly famous as well as staying true to his own vision and broadening the possibilities of what was possible within the rap genre at the time. However, before we end the video, let's not forget Kanye's one and only true live album, which was released a year later, Late Orchestration. As you can probably assume by the title, this was an album featuring live versions of songs from his previous 2 albums. These were orchestral renditions of the songs, with Kanye performing them with a 17-piece string orchestra. The cover of the album reflects where the recording took place, referencing the cover of the Beatles album Abbey Road, a well-known music studio in London. Despite obviously not getting the same amount of attention as Late Registration, live versions of songs like Gone and Through the Wire are absolutely outstanding, showing how necessary and impactful these orchestral sounds are towards Kanye's earlier style of production. So, that's that, the Late Registration era. If you guys enjoyed, a like, subscribe, and...
Subtle, but in even many ways more profoundly devastating is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Please call...
Oh yeah, that's right. The first of many situations where Kanye would cause huge amounts of controversy and start a conversation in the general public. With how times have passed, it may have been forgotten how impactful this single moment was. Not just for Kanye's character and presence within the industry, but for how exposing and outlandish it was towards these greater powers in society that constantly step over these already downtrodden communities. It's undeniable that this didn't perfectly fit with who Kanye had already established himself as though. Standing up against any form of oppression, constantly going against the grain, almost purposely choosing the least favourable or most outrageous actions possible. It's a trend that we'll see will only become more present within Kanye's career moving forward. And that's the video, for real this time. If you guys enjoyed, a like, subscribe, and especially a share to a friend will help support the channel immensely. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Leave me with a bitch and a script and a mic for a vittering. On the grind, on the grind, on the grind all the time. The people that say they're working, just sitting there counting time. No workers, no focus, just locusts and poachers. Manipulated, yeah, you're feeding the cycle. Thinking you're focusing, but then you wonder about Eiffel. Saying that they're spiteful, never realise you the Eiffel.